Hi everyone, I'm Fairly Theta. Today I want to go through the Wizard's Tarot from the Wizard of Barge. The suits have been changed specifically for this deck, so you're not going to find your typical pentacles, swords, wands, cups. They've all been altered. So that also makes it kind of fun. This is a really sturdy, heavy box, and it's also not way too big. So it takes up just the right amount of space, and it's definitely worth storing the cards themselves in. The cards are a heavier cardstock, like they're actually pretty substantial, and they are reversible. So when we look at the major arcana, we can see that they are definitely influenced by the traditional Rider-Waite. There's a lot of symbolism that kind of pervades. There's a lot of symmetry that you can see throughout, and it definitely adds to that kind of hallucinogenic, psychedelic feeling. They're kind of oozy and a little bit gross looking in the best way possible too. You'll notice that there's a lot of like fluids and drippy things. There's a very visceral feeling to this, even though it's clearly not of this world. If you've seen The Midnight Gospel on Netflix, there's a whole episode that really draws on tarot symbolism. I'm not sure if you would totally grasp all the nuance if you didn't know tarot to begin with. There are a lot of recurring visual themes in here that I'm not entirely sure of. Like the Wheel of Fortune, you can see these, I don't know if these are eyes or orifices or what exactly they are, but they do recur a lot. So there is kind of like a gross out element to a lot of these cards. We get to Temperance, and instead of the angel very calmly, pouring water from one cup to another at the banks of intuition and the subconscious, we have this monstrous barmaid vomiting into two steins. So there's definitely a lot of, physical grossness to this. What you're looking at with tarot is a system that works on a subconscious level. You are putting visual cues to certain very mental elements of awareness, and here you are relying on very visceral physical symbolism. So it is an interesting difference, and there is this very spacey, like this tarot could not exist in any other time. Even some of the like more psychedelic artists, you would never approach this. This is a distinctly modern tarot, which is fun. So this deck really gets interesting when it comes to the minor arcana. Typically, I find with a lot of these artist decks that they skimp a little on the minor arcana in favor of really deep diving the majors, and this seems to be the opposite. We have beasts, which are corresponding to wands. We have cults, which correspond to pentacles. We have curses, which correspond to cups. And we have swords, which correspond to swords. So we didn't alter that one at least. The reason I think that this is really interesting is because of the different meaning they play on. Beasts as wands. Beasts have a life force. They are living creatures. All the characters in this are very clearly, alive and have motivation, and they are representing that creative energy. There is still that capacity for creation. Cults as pentacles. My go-to association, and because there's no guidebook, I don't know this for sure, but it feels to me like the difference between something like cults and something more emotional is the money aspect. There is usually an organization involved. There's usually some hierarchy of importance that does have a real world structure to it. Curses as cups. Emotions are the driving force of magic at the end of the day. So that's, I think, where that comes from. And then swords, you may as well keep as swords. Your aces that introduce these concepts, the only one that really kind of sticks to the Rider-Waite symbolism is going to be the Ace of Curses, the hand presenting you with what this thing is. The court cards start to kind of introduce the themes of the characters involved. They do kind of seem to draw on the same monsters. You can see there's really no adherence to the traditional symbolism, but there is a lot of dynamic action and composition to this that I think gets the mood across pretty well. You know, for example, the Queen of Cups, which would be the Queen of Pentacles, rather than the figure seated surrounded by the beauty of the natural world, you have the seated figure. Her eyes are also closed, as if she doesn't necessarily need to be aware of the world around her. And all of this reality is kind of like reverberating off of her as if she's creating it, which is a really different read on that card. The Knights are slightly more active. They are an energy in any tarot that tends to bring that energy in. And I do think there is a lot of that momentum in the Knight cards, save for maybe the Knight of Cups, which is actually also interesting because the Knight of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite is the only knight that is not in motion. So here we also have an incapacitated Knight of Cups. The pages, here they actually seem to act as like messengers. We have 2 of the 4 seeming to deliver some sort of news, whether it's, you know, writing here or reading here in the book, or reading through this crystal gelatinous eyeball. So still sticking with that theme there. The rest of the cards are one of the, I think, a combination of illustrated and you need to know some stuff. So you might not necessarily grasp the full meaning of a card by looking at the illustration, but it definitely still gives you a feeling. You can probably intuit a lot of what's going on. The 9 of Swords in the classic Rider-Waite is a nightmare card, fear, but all like in your head, self-perpetuating nightmares. And here we have this nightmare beast confronting us, and 9 swords raised against it. I think that there is a certain degree of traditional symbolism. 8 of Curses, which would be our 8 of Cups. This actually seems to kind of mirror the devil in the traditional major arcana, where you have these 2 figures who are kind of being subjected to this hellfire torture, except in this card, they're very much beholden to this. It's not their own volition. But the 8 of Cups being a card of kind of harsh realities, answering to the scenarios that you set up for yourself. The 7 of Cups is one of the more iconic cards in the tarot, obviously totally deviating from the theme that we know, but an interesting read. So rather than the 7 cups of possibility filled with illusory opportunities, you have these figures playing a game, seemingly watched over by, I don't know, the entity in charge of the game. Doubles down on the idea of illusion as a gamble. You're gambling on a reality right now, but very different. So this is like the RPG player's 7 of Cups. I like the 3 of Beasts a lot, not for any tarot-related reason. I just really like this haunted umbrella spirit that is depicted on this. The 3 of Wands would be about direction and, you know, choosing the path forward. Traditionally, it's shown as the figure surveying the land in front of him with the 2 wands stuck into the ground and the 1 being held. There is none of that in here. I don't know if you'd look at this and think about the way forward other than the fact that this beast is truly blocking your path, but I think it's a really cute illustration, so. The 3 of Swords is another one of those really iconic cards, and this is clearly very different. So rather than the heart struck through with the 3 swords, with the storm blazing around it, it is this severed head stuck through with 3 swords, which I actually think is more appropriate considering that swords is a suit of mental energy. This is your own head being struck through with the heartbreak of the past. This is, I think, actually probably a little more distinct. And if this were to come up in a reading, it would probably not have the same effect as popping the Three of Swords on the table if the rest of the tarot is a totally straight read. This is definitely a deck where there's going to be occasions you want to read with this, and then there's going to be occasions where it's completely inappropriate. If you use tarot specifically as a tool for self-development and you're the one who needs to connect with the symbolism and the styles, then this is totally something that is open to you. If you read professionally and you're looking for a deck that your clients will connect with, you're gonna have to be a really specific kind of reader to make this work in any setting that's not like club night or something. It's fun though, I do like it a lot. It has a really fun energy. It's got a lot of motion and there's a lot to look at, and your eyes definitely travel around the cards consistently, but it is a tougher read symbolically. I appreciate it though. I think that especially changing the suits here in this style work, and I think it's fun, and I'm excited to play around with it a little bit more personally. So what kind of decks do you like to read with? Do you like the more untraditional, you know, resuited tarot, or are you more of a traditionalist? Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.